Good afternoon, and welcome to Education Weekly, where we break down the most critical stories shaping education today. I'm your host, Jhory Buskey, and this week has been a whirlwind of news from major legislation changes in arts education funding to discussions on the future of AI in schools. We'll also explore ongoing debates around the teacher shortage, student leadership, and new state testing requirements. Stick around as we cover the big headlines and raise the important questions that educators, students, and families are seeking across the nation. Arts education gets a boost in New Jersey. This past week, the state of New Jersey passed an unprecedented law allocating $100 million to enhance arts education in K-12 schools. Governor Phil Murphy signed the bill into law on Monday, September 2nd, citing the benefits of integrating arts into the curriculum for student creativity and emotional well-being. Schools will have access to these grants starting next month to bolster their arts programs. This move is part of a growing national trend recognizing the critical role arts play in holistic education. Will this surge in funding help revitalize struggling arts programs, or is there a deeper systemic change that is needed? Teacher shortage worsens in Florida as 2024 school year begins. Florida schools opened for the 2024-25 school year this past week, but districts continue to report severe teacher shortages. According to the Florida Education Association, over 5,000 teaching positions remain unfilled as of September 5th. Despite emergency measures passed in July 2022, allowing military veterans to teach without certification. As schools scramble to find substitutes and temporary solutions, the quality of education remains a growing concern for parents and educators alike. Are emergency solutions like Florida's Veterans Teaching Program the right path forward, or do we need a more suitable long-term recruitment strategy? AI in classrooms. Texas schools launch new pilot program. Texas announced this past week a new AI-based pilot program in Houston and Austin public schools, with hopes to expand the initiative statewide by the end of 2024. Starting September 4th, select schools will be using AI software to tailor math and reading instruction based on individual student performance. However, critics are raising concerns about privacy and the implications of relying on technology in the classroom. Is AI the key to personalized education, or do the risks of data privacy and inequality outweigh its benefits? New York State testing standards to change. In a significant update, the New York State Education Department announced on September 3rd that it will be rolling out new statewide testing standards by 2025. The new approach, which will reduce and emphasizes on high-stake exams, aims to create a more balanced assessment system that includes projects and other forms of evaluation. Teachers and parents have reacted positively, but some argue that this is only a small step in the right direction. Is reducing the reliance on standardized tests enough to transform how we measure student success, or should we rethink assessments entirely? Student voices drive curriculum changes in Chicago. Student advocacy has been making headlines this past week in Chicago. On September 4th, the Chicago Public Schools Board approved a student-driven proposal to incorporate more diverse texts and authors into the high school English curriculum. This move follows months of student-led protests and petitions demanding a more inclusive curriculum. The changes are set to go into effect starting January 2025. Should more districts prioritize student input when it comes to curriculum development? How can we ensure that all students' voices are heard during these conversations? Professional development for teachers in California, a new priority. California announced on September 2nd that it would invest $250 million in professional development programs for teachers, focusing on equality and equity, mental health, and technology integration. With this funding, schools will have access to cutting edge training designed to equip educators with the tools they need for the 21st century in the classroom. The initiative follows the passage of the state's education budget earlier this summer, which emphasized teacher training as a key pillar for educational success. Can professional development help solve some of the current issues facing teachers? Or does the education system need more fundamental reform? Early literacy programs ramp up in Illinois. This week, Illinois unveiled a new Early Literacy for All initiative on September 5th, targeting K through 12 students in lower income areas. The $30 million program will fund intensive reading interventions and teacher trainings in struggling district areas with literacy concerns. The state's Department of Education reported that 40% of the third graders are still not at grade level, causing a critical need for an investment. Is early literacy intervention the key to closing achievement gaps, or are there broader efforts needed across all grade levels to do so? Massachusetts expands family engagement program. On September 3rd, Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey signed a bill expanding the state's family engagement programs. The new law will allocate an additional $15 million to help schools build stronger partnerships with parents and guardians. The funds will also support initiatives like home visits, family education workshops, and better communication programs and systems to better school and family communication. The move is expanding and ongoing strengthening family connections, which have been proven so far to improve student outcomes. How can schools best partner with families to ensure that all students succeed, especially in underserved communities? Advocacy grows for career and technical education in Colorado. Colorado lawmakers introduced a bill on September 5th. It will increase funding for career and technical education programs across the state. This bill would add $50 million to expand vocational training opportunities in high-demand fields like healthcare and engineering. With the workforce shifting, advocates argue that CTE is crucial to preparing students for careers that don't necessarily require a four-year degree. Should vocational training be prioritized over traditional academic pathways in today's economy? Student leadership on the rise in Michigan. Michigan schools are seeing a wave of student leadership initiatives as several districts launched new leadership councils this week. Starting September 4th, the councils will allow students to collaborate directly with administrators on issues like mental health services and extracurricular funding. The initiative has received positive feedback so far from students and educators alike. Should more schools give students a direct say in how schools are run? And how can they balance this with adult leadership? Teacher certification standards debated in Tennessee. Tennessee is currently revisiting its teacher certification process. On September 4th, the State Board of Education held hearings to discuss loosening certification requirements in rural areas struggling to fill teaching positions. Supporters argue that this will help alleviate the shortage, while critics warn that it could, however, still lower the quality of education. Is relaxing certification standards a necessary step, or does it risk diluting the quality of education in these rural areas? Equality and equity-based focused schools funding bill passed in California. This week, on September 3rd, California passed a landmark equity-focused school funding bill that will allocate $500 million to underfunded schools in low-income communities. This follows years of advocacy by education equity groups and is seen as a significant step towards closing the achievement gap. Schools will begin receiving these funds in the 2025 fiscal year. Can increased funding for underrepresented and under-resourced schools truly close the achievement gap, or are there more holistic approaches that are necessary? Colleges in Georgia dropped SAT, ACT requirements. A major announcement came from Georgia this week. On September 4th, the University System of Georgia decided to drop SAT and ACT requirements for most state colleges. This move forward is a decision by universities across the country spurring after the pandemic and its criticism that standardized tests are inequitable and not predictive of college success. Does dropping standardized test requirements increase access to higher education? Or could it result in unintended consequences for students' preparedness? Texas advocates push for AI education in K 12. In Texas, advocates are pushing for AI literacy to be included in the K 12 curriculum. On September 5th, a coalition of educators and tech experts submitted a proposal to the State Board of Education. They argued that understanding AI will be beneficial and essential for students' future career prospects, and AI continues to reshape industries. Should AI education be a core part of K 12 curriculum? And how can we ensure that all students have access to these technology resources? College affordability takes center stage in Washington, D.C. In a move that could reshape higher education policy, several U.S. senators introduced a bill on September 5th aimed at making community college tuition free nationwide. The bill has garnered support from educators and advocacy groups alike, but its chances of passing in a divided Congress remain uncertain. The legislation comes at a time when student debt is at an all-time high with over 45 million borrowers nationwide. Can community and free community college tuition significantly reduce student debt crisis? Or does the problem require a broader systemic reform? That is all we have for tonight for Education Weekly. We hope that you have enjoyed. Please, please, please keep the members and families from this past week's school shooting in Georgia at the top of the thoughts and the prayers that you have. No one goes to school or to their workplace thinking that they will never return. Please take a moment to think about those that are lost and also continue prayers for the victims who were also severely injured in that classroom who are recovering. Thank you so much again. We hope that you have a great rest of your weekend. Tune in next Saturday at 1 p.m. for Education Weekly